Good day, Knicks fans. Today, I just wanted to go over a couple of players that are outside of the priority list that I have set for the Knicks to draft that may be sleepers or may be surprise picks and the reason I want to go over that is because the Knicks at this point have the 8th pick, as many of you know, the 8th pick, the 27th pick, and the 38th pick. So we have 3 picks in this upcoming draft. As I mentioned before, because there's no consensus superstar in this draft, there are players that have high upsides and actually high floors as well. But there's no consensus Luka Doncic, LeBron James. There's no player like that in this draft. Kobe Bryant, Kawhi Leonard. There's no player like that. But that's actually, there's no player like that that we can see right now. But there's always in every draft players that pop out that are going to be much better. Some become superstars, like we mentioned before, Kawhi Leonard, who was drafted 15th. Okay, he was drafted 15th in his draft class, and he was obviously the best player in that draft class. But nobody knew that, otherwise they'd have drafted him number 1. So what we try to do is find who that surprise player is going to be. Now, it's very difficult because the reason they're surprise players is because when they're in college or in high school, while they obviously show potential to be professional basketball players, there's nothing that shows them that they're going to be anything more special than maybe an average NBA player, which is a very good player. I mean, the NBA has about 360 players and they're the best players in the world, but there's nothing to show that this particular prospect is going to be much better than any of the other prospects that were picked ahead of him. So what is the difference? Well, one of the differences is that players continue to develop after they're drafted. And sometimes it's because they are just naturally good and they develop. And sometimes is that they just work very hard and get the most out of their talent. Okay. And so they're overlooked because it's hard to judge the desire of a player, like a Kawhi Leonard. We can call him Quiet Leonard because he's very quiet, right? But when he went to the Spurs organization, and that also plays a big role, what organization drafts a player, they developed him, and he was also extremely determined to be much better, and he worked extremely hard, and that's why he is who he is. So it's hard to tell, but you can base it sometimes on, when a player gets interviewed, what they're saying, what their attitude is. You can kind of base it sometimes on that. Not all the times there either. So here are some players. Like, let's first go over the list that we already have, to me, as the players that the Knicks should pick. Now, one more thing I'd like to say. I'm very confident that the Knicks are going to acquire another pick. Now, where is that pick going to land? Like, I've heard that Phoenix is looking to actually sell. When I say sell, I mean have a team absorb Kelly Oubre's contract into their cap space. Like, they're not looking for anything back, and they're willing to offer the 10th pick for a team to do that. And the Knicks obviously have the cap space to be able to do that with a Kelly Oubre, and that would change a lot because Kelly Oubre would fill a need on the wing and would change plans of what we might want to do if that was the case. But then we would also acquire the 10th pick. And then if we made trades with Minnesota has shown interest in a couple of our players. Like, well, the 2 players that are really on the market right now, Julius Randle and possibly Dennis Smith Jr. Minnesota has shown some interest in dealing with them. Whether something happens or not, I don't know, but I would assume a trade with them would include the 17th pick, which is Minnesota 17th. Then, of course, there's other teams. There's Charlotte, which has an early second round pick that possibly we can obtain there. And then there's been talk recently of Utah wanting to obtain Julius Randle in exchange for Mike Conley. That would include the 23rd pick. So I'm pretty confident we're going to acquire another pick. As to where it will be, where it be in the lottery, in the middle of the first round, at the end of the first round, or even the second round, is hard to say. So what I want to do is have a couple of players in each area that we might be able to choose. Now, some of them is for fit. Some of them are just, I think, are going to become good basketball players. Okay. And so, let's take a look. Now, to me, the top 4 that we're looking at is Vassell, Okoro, Obi, Toppin. Okay, those are the top three. And then the fourth is Aaron Nesmith. Okay, so addressing our need for shooters, because we do have some interesting players that can be shooters. So Nesmith, the top three is Vassell, Okoro, or Orbi. And then if we get one of those players, it would be Nesmith after that. So if, let's say we have the 8th pick, we picked Vassell. Or see, my fear is that Obi will be available at 8. I'd rather actually take Vassell first. But if Obi's available, I think the Knicks, what I think they'll do is they'll probably take Obi first. Okay. Obi will be the stretch 4. We actually wouldn't be trying to sign a new stretch 4, at least a starter, if we drafted Obi Toppin, because he would become the stretch 4. But, I hope they take Vassell. Actually, I'm crazy enough to like Vassell. And if I can get Okoro and Vassell, I'd take both of them. But, the possibility exists that we can get the 10th pick. So I'd take Vassell at 8, Nesmith at 10. Okay. So Nesmith's another one. So now let's say after that, now we're not talking about players that everybody thinks is going to be good. We're talking about players that a lot of people are looking under the radar that could be good. Like, for example, Kyra Lewis. A lot of people like Kyra Lewis. I think he'll go in the middle of the first round. I think he's going to be pretty good. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be great. That depends. He could be. But he definitely has the speed, like a De'Aaron Fox, like a John Wall with the ball. Can he run an offense on a pro level? How good does he shoot? He's a small kid. Can he defend? These are questions we don't know yet. But he definitely has the speed and the skill with the basketball in his hand to get the ball up the court quickly, which is very important. To advance the basketball is extremely important, and to put pressure on defenses with his speed. He definitely has that. Also, though, a sleeper is Trey Jones. Trey Jones is not, I don't think he's going to be a great player, but a solid player at the point guard position that can keep the ball moving. You see, one of the things I want to point out that I'm looking for, the great offenses in the NBA, great offenses. Now, I want to also make it plain that, to me, defense, you start with defense. And I'm hoping the Knicks do that this year. Start with defense with Tom Thibodeau, build a tremendous defense, and then you can work on the offense after that. But offensively speaking, the best teams in the NBA, the ball hums. What do I mean by that? The ball is moving. One of the basic tenets of playing basketball the right way is understanding that the ball moves faster than people. Okay? Understanding that the ball moves faster than people. And so when the ball is moving quickly through an offensive set, it makes the defense scramble, and it gives the offense an opportunity to create a very high percentage shot, by bodies moving, in the offense. And so at the point guard spot, I'm looking for somebody that can facilitate ball movement. Okay. One of the problems with Julius Randle is that he kills ball movement, because when the ball gets to him, he's not, moving it generally. Okay. So, we're looking for people that can facilitate ball movement. If you watch the Denver Nuggets play, or if you watch, the Clippers, any of the great teams, that are vying for championships, or the Boston Celtics, when they're at their best, the ball is humming. It's moving, and they're getting it into spots where, when they're very good, they're getting it into spots where there are mismatches and where their best players are in the best position to score. And it happens very quickly. Okay. So you want players that don't hold that up. Trey Jones, I think, is that type of player. And I think, of course, Trey Jones plays good defense as well. And he's a very high IQ player, so he understands what I was just explaining in terms of ball movement. Another sleeper I like is Jordan Nwora. Jordan Nwora, is a shooter. I think he's going to be a tremendous shooter. And again, he's coming out of Louisville now. Again, these are guys that are going to be picked later, like after the 25th pick, probably. He can surprise some people. It's possible for him to do that. And also, a guy I really like is Desmond Bane. I like Desmond Bane out of TCU. 6'6". He's a swing guy. What I like about him, he is also a tremendous shooter. He has a little weird jump shot. It's almost like when he shoots it, his arm pushes out instead of it rising at a height, it goes out, but it goes in. So he shoots it at a very high rate. He's a 4-year player. So it means he's like 22 years old. He's strong. I mean, he's very muscular, almost like a football player. I don't think the physicality NBA is going to bother him. And so, I really like Bain as a surprise, somebody we could look at. I also like Nwora as a surprise, somebody we could look at late in the first round or early and mid in the second round. Who knows where these guys are going to end up, but I like both of them as surprises. There's a guy named Reed at DePaul, like 6'9". He reminds me a lot of Bam Adebayo. But this kid looks like, and he's about 6'9", like Adebayo. He could play the center or the power forward position. I just think he's going to be a good basketball player. I don't know if he's going to be a stretch four or a backup five, but I just think he has the tools, the athletic ability to become a good basketball player. He just needs some development. And so I'm looking at Jordan Nwora, Desmond Bain, and what's Reed's first name? I forgot. I know he's at DePaul. God, what was his name? I think is it Paul Reed? Yeah, Paul Reed. Paul Reed from DePaul. 6'9", 210. They have him listed as a power forward. He's a junior. I like him. Now, that doesn't mean the three players that I just chose, Jordan Nwora, Desmond Bain, and Paul Reed, that doesn't mean there's not other good players at these positions. I'm talking about sleepers, okay? Like Precious Okoro is another good player. I don't think he's going to be a sleeper, but I think he gets chosen in the lottery. I'll be surprised if he didn't. Jalen Smith is another good player from Maryland. I think also a lot of people, I don't think anybody would be surprised if he became a good player. He's another guy that could be drafted in the second round. Okay. Now, I mean, not second round, in the late first round. And then like a guy like a Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey reminds me of Wes Matthews when he was in his prime. A tremendous defender, high IQ, and definitely a very solid spot up jump shooter from the 3-point range. So I'm looking at though, Jordan Nwora, Desmond Bain, and Paul Reed as sleepers that the Knicks could get, either in the second round or the late first, 27 or 38. And then of course, if they acquire another pick, they can still get one of these guys. Okay. And again, why would that be important? Again, because in this draft, there's no superstar out here, but there's no apparent superstar, but there are game changers in this draft. This is the type of draft where that game changer can come anywhere from the first pick to the 60th pick. So if you had, if you want to increase your odds of choosing the game changer that's in the draft, that nobody really knows because, it's not consensus. It's not something obvious. The more picks you have, the better. Okay. So the Knicks already have 3 picks, and I think they're going to acquire a 4th pick. If they do, that increases our odds of getting a game changing player that nobody's looking at. So again, Jordan Nwora, Desmond Bain, shooters. These guys are both shooters that are go with, like, of course, Nesmith, that are all 3 very, high quality shooters on the college level that you hope that shooting translates to the NBA level. And then there's Paul Reed, who I think is a real sleeper, a guy that just needs some development, but is totally athletic, can run the floor, has skills. He just needs to develop a little bit more IQ, a little bit more basketball, sense there. And I think he can do that. And then of course at the point guard position, Trey Jones. I like Trey Jones. I think he's solid. I think he's going to have a solid career. I'm not looking for him to be a superstar, but I think he can play solid defense. He will keep the ball humming. He has a high IQ. These are the guys I like. So tell me what you think. Shalom.